General Vorthok of the Krathian Honor Guard had never retreated in 43 years of military service. His species believed in glorious death over shameful withdrawal. Stand your ground, fight to the last warrior, die with honor. These were the pillars of Krathian military doctrine, which is why he was currently screaming at the human tactical advisor assigned to his unit. You want us to what? Vorthok's scaled fist slammed onto the holographic tactical display, scattering light projections across the command center. Colonel Sarah Mitchell, United Earth Defense Force, calmly reset the display. I'm recommending a strategic withdrawal, General. Pull back 3 kilometers to the ridgeline, regroup, and hit them from elevated positions. That is retreat. Vorthok roared, Krathians do not retreat. With respect, General, Krathians also don't usually lose entire battalions in unwinnable positions. But that's what's about to happen if we stay here. The command center fell silent. No one spoke to General Vorthok like that. Certainly not a human half his size who'd been assigned to his command only 3 weeks ago. Explain, Vorthok growled, how abandoning our position gives us advantage. Sarah zoomed in on the tactical map. We're in a valley surrounded by higher ground on 3 sides. The enemy has artillery superiority and air support. Our defensive position is actually a kill box. They're hurting us here deliberately. Then we fight. Krathian warriors do not flee from superior numbers. No, you die from superior positioning. Sarah's voice was matter-of-fact, not cruel. Look, I've read about Krathian military history, the Battle of Corvin's Stand, the Siege of Thraxar, the last defense of Vector Prime. All glorious, all resulted in complete annihilation of Krathian forces. Those warriors died with honor. They died. Period. Sarah met his glare, steadily. General, honor doesn't reload your weapons, reinforce your positions, or bring dead soldiers back to fight another day. You know what does? Living. Regrouping. Fighting smarter. Vorthok's second-in-command, Commander Zek, spoke up hesitantly. General, perhaps we should consider. No. Vorthok's tail lashed violently. I will not be remembered as the first Krathian general to run from battle. You won't be remembered at all if you're dead, Sarah said bluntly. And neither will your soldiers. Dead heroes don't win wars, General. Living soldiers do. This is human cowardice. Your species has no concept of honor. Sarah's expression hardened. Oh, we have honor, General. We also have something you apparently don't, an understanding that the objective is to win, not to die gloriously while losing. She pulled up historical data on her datapad. Human military history is full of tactical withdrawals. George Washington retreated constantly during the American Revolutionary War. He lost most of his battles, but he won the war because he kept his army alive. The Soviets in World War II retreated thousands of kilometers, burning everything behind them. Then they turned around and crushed the German advance. The Mongols made false retreats an art form. Pretend to flee, lure the enemy into pursuing, then massacre them when they're disorganized. Deception and cowardice, Vorthok spat. Victory and survival, Sarah corrected. Humans learned a long time ago that pride is expensive and death is permanent. We'd rather live and fight on our terms than die to satisfy some code of honor. Then humans have no honor. We have different honor. Sarah's voice softened slightly. We honor our responsibility to bring our soldiers home, alive. We honor the mission objective over personal glory. We honor the war effort over individual battles. Is that really so wrong? Before Vorthok could respond, alarms blared. The tactical display lit up red. Enemy artillery barrage incoming, the sensor officer reported. Impact in 90 seconds. All units, defensive positions. Vorthok commanded, prepare to return fire. General, we can't return fire effectively from this position. Sarah argued. They're on the high ground. Our artillery can't reach their positions, but theirs can hammer us all day. Then we will endure. Krathian warriors do not. The first shells hit. The command center shook violently. Reports flooded in. Casualties in the eastern defensive line. Ammunition depot hit. Medical station destroyed. General, we're taking massive casualties. Zek reported. Casualty rate at 15% and climbing. Vorthok watched his carefully prepared defenses crumble under artillery fire his forces couldn't effectively counter. His warriors were dying honorably, yes, but dying nonetheless. 20% casualties, General. The eastern line is collapsing. Sarah stood beside him, not gloating. Just waiting. General, please. Let me save your soldiers. Vorthak looked at the tactical display, at the red markers indicating enemy positions on the high ground, at the blue markers his forces trapped in the valley like fish in a barrel. Everything in his training, his culture, his entire warrior ethos screamed at him to stand and fight. To die if necessary, but die with honor. Then he looked at the casualty reports. Good warriors, brave warriors, dead warriors. Tell me, he said quietly, how does human tactical withdrawal work? Sarah didn't waste time with victory or relief. She immediately pulled up the plan. We establish a fighting retreat. Rear guard holds the line while the main force pulls ba. Seek in stages. We use smoke screens to mask the movement, and we mine the approach routes to slow their pursuit. We fall back to this ridgeline, she highlighted it, which gives us the high ground advantage. Then we dig in and make them come to us across open ground. They will pursue this fighting retreat. Soldiers will still die covering the withdrawal. Sarah nodded grimly. Yes, rearguard actions are dangerous, but fewer will die than if we stay here and get shelled into oblivion. Vorthok looked at his warriors on the display. Then he made a decision that would either save his command or destroy his reputation forever. Commander Zek, execute the humans' withdrawal plan. The command center went silent again. Zek stared. General, you heard me. Pull our forces back to the ridgeline. Now, before we lose more warriors to enemy artillery. But General, the honor. I know. Vorthak's roar shook the chamber. Then, quieter. I know. Do it anyway. All units, this is tactical command. Initiate withdrawal sequence, Echo. 7. 3rd Battalion, your rear guard. Hold positions until main force is clear, then leapfrog back. Artillery, smoke screens on my mark. Engineering, I need mines on approaches Alpha through Delta. Move, people. The withdrawal was chaos. Organized chaos, but chaos nonetheless. Krathian warriors, trained their entire lives to hold ground, were now abandoning positions. Some moved smoothly, following human doctrine. Others hesitated, cultural programming warring with direct orders. The rear guard, 3rd Battalion, under Commander Zek, held the line magnificently. They traded fire with advancing enemy forces, bought time with their lives, then withdrew in stages, just as Sarah had directed. The enemy, sensing retreat, pushed hard. Their commanders, like Vorthok, had been trained to pursue fleeing foes. They advanced into the valley. They're taking the bait, Sarah observed, watching enemy forces pour into the positions the Krathians had abandoned. General, when your forces are in position on the ridgeline, we'll have them exactly where we want them. 40 minutes later, the Krathian forces were dug in on the ridgeline. The high ground, the superior tactical position, and the enemy was in the valley. The kill box, the same position Vorthok's forces had just abandoned. All artillery, you have firing solutions, Sarah asked, confirmed. Colonel, enemy forces are in optimal strike zone. Sarah looked at Vorthok. Your command, General. Vorthok stared at the tactical display. His forces on the high ground. Enemy forces trapped below. The reversal is almost poetic. All units, he said, his voice carrying new understanding, open fire. The Krathian artillery, which had been nearly useless in the valley, now rained hell on enemy positions from above. The enemy, caught in the open with no cover, took devastating casualties. Their commanders, realizing the trap, tried to withdraw. But Sarah had predicted that too. Mines activating on enemy retreat routes, she reported. They're boxed in. The battle lasted another hour. When it ended, the enemy force that had outnumbered Vorthok's command 2-1 had been decimated. The Krathian casualties 12%. Heavy, yes, but not the complete annihilation that staying in the valley would have guaranteed. In the aftermath, Vorthok found Sarah in the tactical center, reviewing after-action reports. Colonel Mitchell, he said formally. General, that was effective, Sarah offered. I was going to say dishonorable, but also, yes, effective. Vorthok sat heavily. We would have died in that valley. All of us. Gloriously, perhaps, but dead. Yes, sir. Sir. Instead, we retreated, abandoned our positions, ran from the enemy. He said each phrase like it tasted bitter. And we won. Tactical withdrawal, sir. Not retreat. There's a difference. Is there? We abandoned ground to the enemy. Temporarily. Then we took it back. Along with ground they had held. Net gain in our favor. Sarah pulled up the casualty comparison, and we did it while losing 88% fewer soldiers than if we'd stayed. Vorthak studied the numbers. In Krathian military academies we study famous last stands. Glorious defeats where warriors died to the last. And how many of those battles won wars? None. They are remembered for their honor, not their strategic value. He was quiet for a moment. You humans, you study victories, not glorious defeats. We study both. We remember our heroic last stands too, the Alamo, Thermopylae, Little Bighorn. But we learn different lessons from them. What lessons? That last stands usually happen when someone made bad tactical decisions earlier. That dying bravely doesn't change the fact that you died. That honor is important, but so is winning. Sarah met his gaze. General, my species has a saying, he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. It's not about cowardice. It's about choosing the time and place of battle. Your species has no honor, Vortok said, but there was less conviction in his voice now. We have honor. We just don't let it kill us unnecessarily. Sarah stood. With your permission, I'd like to debrief your commanders on tactical flexibility doctrine. If we're going to keep working together, they should understand when to stand firm and when to be mobile. You mean when to retreat. I mean when to make the enemy fight on our terms instead of theirs. Vorthok considered this. His entire military career, his cultural identity, everything he'd been taught said that what they'd done today was shameful. But the numbers didn't lie. They'd won. Decisively. Because they'd retreated. Very well, Colonel. Teach my commanders your human tactics. But understand, Krathian honor is not easily changed. Sarah smiled. I'm not asking you to abandon honor, General. Just to expand your definition. Is there honor in needlessly wasting warriors' lives, or is there greater honor in bringing them home to their families? That question haunted Vortak long after Sarah left. 3 months later, the Joint Krathian Human Task Force had won 7 consecutive engagements. Their tactics were becoming legendary, aggressive when advantageous, mobile when necessary, always thinking 3 moves ahead. Other Krathian commanders called Vorthak's unit the Runners. It was meant as an insult. Vorthak's warriors wore it as a badge of honor. We run, one of his soldiers had said, so we can run. Back harder. Sarah's tactical doctrine had spread throughout the unit. Krathian warriors now understood concepts like tactical flexibility, strategic depth, and fighting retreat. They still preferred to stand and fight, that was in their nature, but they'd learned when not to. The pivotal moment came during the Battle of Kresh. 7 Vorthok's forces were defending a critical supply depot against a massive enemy assault. By traditional Krathian doctrine, they should hold the depot to the last warrior. Sarah recommended withdrawal and counterattack. Vorthok didn't even hesitate. Execute the withdrawal. We'll retake the depot tomorrow when we have orbital support. They did, with minimal casualties. After the battle, Vorthok called Sarah to his quarters. I need to tell you something, Colonel. Yes, General. When you first arrived, I thought you were a coward. I thought all humans were cowards. You spoke of retreat and tactical withdrawal, and I heard only dishonor. And now? Now. Understand. Humans aren't cowards. You're just less stupid than we are. He almost smiled. You fight to win, not to die gloriously, and you've taught my warriors that there is honor in living to fight another day. You're not stupid, General. Just traditionally minded. I've been rethinking tradition. Vorthok pulled up casualty statistics. 3 months ago, my unit had a 67% casualty rate in major engagements. Since you arrived, 12%. We've won more battles, lost fewer warriors, achieved more objectives. By every metric, we're more effective. Your warriors adapted well. Because you showed them that tactical flexibility isn't weakness, it's strength. He looked at her seriously. Colonel Mitchell, I want to formally request that human tactical doctrine be integrated into Krathian military training. Sarah blinked in surprise. General, that's a significant cultural shift, yes. But wars are won by living warriors, not dead heroes. You taught me that, he stood, offering a formal Krathian salute. You saved my command, Colonel. Not just their lives, but their effectiveness. I would be honored to spread this knowledge to all Krathian forces. Sarah returned the salute. Permission to speak freely, sir? Granted. I think you're going to catch a lot of heat from traditionalist commanders. They're going to call you a coward. Say you've abandoned Krathian honor. Let them. I'd rather be called a coward by the living than honored by the dead. Ratak's expression hardened with determination. Besides, when those traditionalist commanders see our victory record, they'll either adapt or keep losing battles. Eventually, results speak louder than tradition. Asked. Very human thinking, General. And learn new tricks. KRHE, Military Akamai. 1 year later, Instructor Vorthak, promoted after his tactical successes, stood before a class of young Krathian warriors. Cadets, today we study the Battle of Kelleresh Valley. Previously, this battle was taught as an example of glorious defeat, how Commander Braxul and his warriors died to the last, holding their ground against superior forces. He pulled up the tactical display, but today we're going to analyze what went wrong, and what Commander Braxul should have done differently. The cadets shifted uncomfortably. Criticizing a famous last stand was borderline heretical. Commander Braxul had multiple opportunities to withdraw to superior positions. Vorthak continued. He chose not to because he believed holding ground was more important than tactical advantage. He died honorably. His entire command died with him. And the enemy took the position anyway 3 days later when reinforcements arrived. He zoomed in on alternate positions. If Braxul had withdrawn here, trading space for tactical advantage, his forces could have held out until reinforcements arrived. He would have won the battle. His warriors would have lived. The position would have been held. One brave cadet raised a hand. But Instructor, wouldn't withdrawal have been dishonorable? Is it honorable to waste warriors' lives unnecessarily? Vorthak asked, is it honorable to fail your mission because you refuse to adapt? The humans have taught us something valuable. There is no honor in defeat, only in victory. And victory requires flexibility. He changed the display to show the Battle of Kelleresh Valley as it might have happened with human tactical doctrine. This is what we could have achieved. This is what we will achieve, going forward. Another cadet, but Instructor, you're suggesting we become like humans, retreating, maneuvering, avoiding direct confronta. I'm suggesting we become smarter. Fourth corrected. Humans don't avoid confrontation. They choose when and where confrontation happens. They make the enemy fight on human terms. Why should Krathians do any less? He looked at the young warriors before him, the next generation of Krathian military leadership. You can choose to die gloriously in losing battles, or you can choose to live and win wars. The decision is yours. But I will only teach tactics that bring warriors home alive. The class was silent, processing this radical departure from traditional doctrine. Then, one cadet stood. Instructor, teach us to fight like humans. Another stood. Teach us to fight. Vorthak felt pride swell in his chest. These warriors understood. Very well, cadets. Lesson 1: there is no shame in tactical withdrawal, if it leads to strategic victory. Now, let's analyze the Battle of Kresh. 7. Where my unit retreated directly into a winning position. Colonel, Sarah, MIT Shells, personal, log. I came to the Krathian command expecting to be tolerated at best, despised at worst. Instead, I've witnessed something remarkable. A warrior culture learning to value survival over glory. General Vorthak once called me a coward. Now he's revolutionizing Krathian military doctrine based on human tactical flexibility. I think there's a lesson here. Not just about tactics, but about culture. The Krathians thought honor meant never retreating. We showed them that real honor is bringing your people home. Different species, different values, but the willingness to learn from each other. That's how we'll win this war. Not through superior firepower or technology, but through combined strengths. The Krathians are learning to retreat tactically, and humans are learning Krathian courage in holding critical positions. Together, we're becoming something neither species could be alone. More effective, more adaptable, more likely to survive. Maybe that's what galactic cooperation really means.